and that's what the state generally provides. Some states provide a uniform duration of up to 26 weeks. Other states, it varies based on how long your work history is over the past 18 months. But generally 26 weeks is what people can count on in terms of receiving state unemployment benefits.
Now, the people who are unemployed have to apply themselves?
They do. You have to be able and available for work and actively looking for it. Now, you don't have to take just the first job that comes along. Part of the reason for unemployment is to give people enough economic security to find another job that is roughly comparable to what they had. We don't want someone making $20 an hour to take a $7 an hour job. But at the same time, you need to be out there, you need to be applying for jobs and looking for them, and you can't turn down reasonable offers of employment and still continue to collect unemployment benefits.
Well, I keep hearing that the McDonald's jobs that were always high school students or some college students are now the head of the household jobs.
They are. It's happening across the country. You know, the $7, $8, $9 an hour jobs that either high school students or part-time workers or the least educated members of our workforce generally took. People are desperate now, so they're taking anything that they can get. Their unemployment benefits are running out, or perhaps based on their work history, it could be that the $7 or $8 an hour provides them more money than the unemployment benefits do. So people are making really tough choices right now. And people coming out of college in particular are really making very tough choices and settling for substandard employment because loans come due, because they're on their own for their first time. And the scary thing is that all studies show us that whatever wage you make when you first enter the workforce does track you for the rest of your career in one way or the other. It's one of the reasons why the wage gap for women workers is so severe, because you start lower and you exponentially are tracked lower through the rest of your career. It's now happening to an entire generation of young workers who are entering the workforce during this very serious recession, making less money than they would have otherwise 2 years ago or 2 years from now, and that will likely track them through their entire careers and could be, you know, tens of thousands of dollars a year that they don't make for the rest of their lives.
Well, kids that are graduating from college now having difficulty finding jobs, and do we have any programs to help with that? Because they get out owing student loans and sometimes credit cards.
Right. It's really tough, you know. For the college-educated worker who's struggling to find a job, that's actually one place where we don't have very robust programs. You know, college career counseling offices are their best bets. For workers that are really underskilled in this economy, you know, perhaps have not received their GED, struggle with literacy, or have skills for jobs that they've lost that aren't coming back, there are a number of federal programs through the Department of Labor, administered through state departments of labor, through which they can get training, they can get income support and child care subsidies and transportation subsidies so that they can train for better jobs during this bad economy while there are no jobs to be had. But for educated, skilled workers who are really struggling right now, they're in some ways the ones that are the least with a net. It's a scary time.
Well, the people who make the highest amount of money seemingly will have the hardest time going to another job, because the persons who are hiring does not want to match that salary.
You're right. I mean, everybody is looking for a bargain right now. And they know they can get it because, you know, for every 6 people looking for a job, there's only 1 job opening. Under the best of times, it takes the higher up you are on the job ladder, the longer it takes you to find another job. And in a recession, it's only magnified. So it's very tough right now. It's very tough for older workers. Anybody who's over 50 years old are facing even more barriers than they did in the past. We know that age discrimination is illegal, but we also know that it still happens, and it can be fairly easily disguised. And it's happening with increased frequency in this recession. So it's especially for people who are nearing retirement and really at a point in their life when they don't need to be drawing on their savings, they need to be continuing to build them so that they can have a robust, well-deserved retirement. It's a particularly devastating time to lose a job.
Now, is unemployment federal or state?
It's a hybrid federal and state program. It is federal in the sense that there are overarching federal laws about the basic standards that you need to meet, and there is a very nominal tax that employers pay, a federal tax that they pay into the federal trust fund. And that money is then given to the states to administer the programs, not to pay out the benefits, but to hire the people to staff the programs, to process the claims and pay out the benefits. It is state in the sense that that is where the employers pay the bulk of their taxes into the state unemployment trust funds, and then that money goes out in terms of benefits. And the states have a fair amount of latitude about setting rules about eligibility and disqualifications as long as they meet the basic requirements of the federal law.
Well, our governor of Texas did not want to cooperate with the federal unemployment, and his reason was because he felt that the state ultimately would have to take this responsibility. At what point does the state have to take the responsibility? I mean, it doesn't do anything for the unemployed worker.
It doesn't. You know, in the Recovery Act, there was a great provision called the Unemployment Insurance Modernization Act. It provided exceedingly generous incentive grants to states at a time when they need them very badly because their trust funds are bust, to make certain improvements to their unemployment laws that recognize the realities of the current workforce, that women are increasingly in the workforce, that low-wage workers often have trouble qualifying for benefits, that, you know, people are increasingly working part-time by necessity because they need to balance child care responsibilities with the income needs of their families. So these reforms are only designed to really better respond to the modern workforce. And the money that Texas would have received in order to make these reforms would have lasted an estimated 7 or so years before the state had to pick up the money on its own. And Texas left tens of millions of dollars on the table at a time when its trust fund is bust, and at a time when they're going to have to start increasing taxes on employers in order to replenish their trust fund. So it was a decision that those of us at NELP didn't really agree with, and we think it's a little short-sighted. I should also mention that prior to this law coming into place, there were about 23 states that had already enacted some version of these reforms, and none of them felt a drain on their trust fund as a result of doing so. None of these states realized such drastic increases in the receipt of unemployment that it was a financial problem for them. And the reason why states' trust funds are struggling right now isn't because they've invested in modernizations. It's because they haven't saved for the rainy day when the times were good. So personally, I think it was a short-sighted decision on the part of your governor not to take that money. And in doing so, he denied the opportunity to improve your system in a way that would help provide a safety net that would be predominantly focused on women workers and low-wage workers, who are often the people who need it most in this society.
Well, I should think that our economy will work itself to a very positive end. That is, the businesses will feel confident enough to rehire some of the people, and maybe we can get some new products on the market and hopefully and move up. Has it ever lasted longer than 7 years? It seems to me that we could feel pretty safe if this money will help to last 7 years rather than just turn it away and not having any.
Yeah, there's no economist that is saying this recession is going to last for 7 years. This is going to be a longer one than just about any of us have ever experienced in our lifetime, that's for sure. Reputable economists on all sides of the political spectrum talk about unemployment staying in double digits through next year, possibly into 2011, and there is a chance that we're not going to recover to the 4.5% unemployment that we had before the recession. It could end up being a lot higher. But this level of unemployment and this level of a recession across all parts of our economy is not going to last 7 years. Unless there is a really major catastrophe. That's just not going to happen. So, again, it was an opportunity to really spend a lot of money to replenish your trust fund at a time when the state needed it desperately. And it was a lost opportunity to provide stimulus to the state as well.
Yes. Any way to reverse that?
There is. The